just to learn about your background and what you've been working on in the past. So please just start by telling us about yourself. If you can tell us maybe a bit about your journey, what led you to Ethereum, how did you start working on the core development? Yeah, what was it like for you?
Yeah, thanks, Mara. Is it fine now? I mean, like the audio. I for
All
some
good,
reason can't
all perfect.
turn on the video. Yeah, sorry, I can't turn on
No
my
worries.
video,
I
or
hear you
it just
crisp,
doesn't turn on.
so
Yeah,
that's important.
yeah, great. Okay, yeah, thanks for having me here, and yeah, I'll 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 be short on my journey in Ethereum. So I'll just accidentally join the Ethereum community in 2015. As an engineer, we've been working on one of the ancient Ethereum clients. So yeah, after some time, yeah, it was really exciting to me to be a part of it. It was great. Early days, so it was really rapid development of everything around, and was kind of like very excited by this new blockchain that just recently uh, started the mainnet. So was very excited from the first day, literally. And yeah, before that, I was not much involved in crypto and not following much the crypto. I've heard about Bitcoin, but that was just something like the price of Bitcoin following, and a bit of the technology. And yeah, after that, after after a couple of years in this space, um, even yeah, it was like more maybe 3 years after the Ethereum 2.0 effort started, and then joined the R&D part of it. And kind of like we were working on the beacon chain client, basically with the guys from the team who worked on the client that I mentioned at the beginning. Yeah, and that was my journey to R&D, and slowly started to do more research work, but originally from the engineering world. Now working on the specs, engine API, consensus specs mostly. And one of the biggest project I was involved was the merge, where we basically design a lot of things that we use today, in terms of the spec and spec tooling mostly. So that was awesome. That kind of this is kind of like my path to the core development and to where I am now, participating in Electro now, and yeah, looking forward to some new stuff like single slot finality and other consensus related things
We'll
and problems.
Yeah, we'll definitely get there. I also want to ask about like what you're looking forward to. But yeah, just to reiterate, you started working in 2015 on Alet, the C++ client.
No, it was Ethereum J, Java client.
Ethereum J, the Java client. Oh, because I heard something like Alet. So yeah, the Java client. That's ancient history. I wanted to highlight it because people here have no idea that some stuff like that existed a few years back. So um, that's really interesting. And yeah, it's been a lot of stuff like you mentioned the merge, and you've been working on the spec, the agent API. Can you maybe tell us a bit more about your projects, like so people have a better idea what you've been dealing with recently or right now? There was the 6110, I believe the Maxi B staff. Yeah, what you have going on these days or recently?
Yeah, sure. That's a good topic to expand on. So yeah, what I've mentioned that I'm kind of like involved in Electra now, and Electra is comprised from a number of changes, a number of EIPs, and those that I've been involved into development of are 6110, 7251, which is the max effective balance increase, 6110 as deposit requests. And what actually made me to this EIP is the some technical debt that we had since the merge. So basically, deposit still made via ETH1 bridge, which is completely redundant after the merge. So this EIP fixes this technical debt. And the nice story about 6110 is that from a couple of guys from the cohort number 3, if I'm not mistaken, from the EPF, we did a prototype of like basically implementing the CAP in a one in Bazu and Lighthouse, and run several devnets and did a great project on it, which actually mm, uh, impacted the inclusion of DCAP into Electra. So it was really awesome time. It was a year ago. And at the same time, I was involved in 7259, some basically design stuff of the spec and how it can be implemented within the existing protocol. Yeah, so also doing engine API support by default.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Mikhail. Yeah, it's a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of important parts of the client, and I believe if folks have any questions about I don't know, engine API, the specs, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, I can also continue following up. Oh, we have some questions. Okay, let's start with you guys. I think Danos like split second first. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Mikhail. So can you hear me okay? I got some
Yeah,
noisy.
I can hear you.
Okay.
It's fine.
Um, I'm curious about your opinion on two topics that were discussed in EPF, either in our weekly stand-ups or in other AMAs. Uh, First being in the context of 61110, because you're actually removing the bridge from ETH1 data. Uh, would it be hard? I mean, what would you recommend? Adding new fields to the deposit contract in order to add new logic, for example, delegations, because I'm working on that project. And my mentor said in a discussion, in a previous discussion, that it would be maybe very hard to add new lines to the deposit data structure, or basically it would be better to add like a new delegation contract that would constitute another ETH gateway into the system. That's the first question. And do you prefer to ask the second, or we switch to the second later?
Yeah, I just want to some clarification. What's this delegation is about? Probably to answer the question, I need a bit more
Yeah,
context.
yeah. So adding delegations would be basically uh, to let the protocol see ETH holders on top of validators. So now the Ethereum only sees validators, does not see the source of the capital provider. So the project would be to add in the beacon state another class called delegators that can actually represent the ETH holder that can delegate to validators. And that would need another gateway for actual ETH into the system.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the delegator is it explicitly specified to the deposit call, or is it just the owner, the originator of the call of the transaction making deposit?
It's the originator of the transaction. So is the entity that generates the deposit transaction.
Okay, I see. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I need just let's better chat offline after the call about this. But yeah, my intuition would be to not change the deposit flow that we already have, and attempt to do something aside of it, because this is the critical component of the system, and it's quite hard to do the change, and you have to reason about it that it just doesn't break anything. Yeah, probably it's not that complicated though.
Okay,
So
sure. We can chat more on that. Okay, and second, yesterday we were discussing. Actually, I raised up a topic, and we said it would be good to ask your opinion on this since we have you today here. Is there a reason we do not have consolidated consensus specs? Because, for example, I realized that it would help me. So it was like for my own um, mental process. I was thinking something along the line. I kind of need it, so I would like to build it. And then the question was, why don't we have consolidated consensus specs? Is there like a clean reason why we don't, or just it was not a priority? What do you think? Or and did you ever had to to discuss about this or to think about this?
So the consolidated spec would be the spec that has all the changes, right? I mean, like it's like literally the last version of the protocol.
Yeah, because we just have the diff. In the consensus spec, we just have the git diff between the last fork and the current fork. And as a researcher,
actually,
I know. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a short note aside. As implementation, as a client, developer, it's probably not that important because each client has its own way to implement the state and the specs. But as a researcher, for example, maybe it would help you or a researcher in general to have like the full view of the current Ethereum specification in front and not have to jump from one fork to another just to get to the bottom of it or to the main view.
Yeah, so yeah, that's interesting question. So I would say this is historically we use diffs. This is very convenient for the introduction of the new changes and basically assembling a new fork scope out of those changes. So it's kind of like quite important to keep everything clean on that front, I guess. And actually, you can compile the Python part of the spec and get the most recent spec representation. This is done by actually making the PySpec, this compiling PySpec. But probably this would not be enough because the spec has some English in it as well, English statements. So I'm not sure if I can understand the problem. So you want to look at the spec like at the holistic spec and reason about some calls and outline in your mind or whenever else the
like a mind map
call graph. So yeah, I can understand how it's the problem here. But the other problem of the spec would be in this case, so you can get Python, right? So, but sometimes the rationale behind some changes is not is quite is hidden behind a number of changes behind some conversations. So probably if you're starting to look into the spec and trying to learn the spec, now the best way would be to, if you have this holistic compiled PySpec, also look at the annotated spec, which is built on a diff basis. But yeah, that's quite hard. There is also a book by Ben Edgington, which is called ETH2 book, which is a great source of everything. Is probably one of the reasons why this book exists, and one of the utilities to have this kind of like description behind the lines of the spec. I don't know if it provides the holistic view though. I mean, like on the spec. Yeah, that's a good question, but it's probably that when you start being familiar with the spec, it's hard, but then it's kind of used to just this representation of the spec. I don't know. It should be at least it should be a separate task to maintain the spec within the English statements, and that's kind of the overhead that somebody will have to take.
And you don't, you didn't. So there were no formal discussions on this. Mario said yesterday that the execution guys had something like that, compiling all the changes. On consensus, there's no. I'm sorry, Mario. Mario.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just they had a discussion more about how to structure it. Like they didn't come to any conclusion.
Okay.
But you're asking whether there is something like this on
On
consensus,
consensus,
maybe.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you actually run the make by spec in the spec repository, you'll get this spec compiled. There will be different versions of the spec for Electra, for the NAB, and so forth. Each of them will contain the fork, which will contain the protocol version up to the fork.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, and that's for test cases. Okay.
Yeah, that's for test cases, and sometimes it's really useful, to have these to browse across the different calls and different methods.
Okay, thank you, and I'll look you up on the chat for the other discussion.
Yep.
Thank you, Mikhail.
Thank you, guys. Dan, you shared me the overview document for the EODS. You mind if I share it in the chat? I think it's like a great
Sure.
overview if Mikhail is not up to speed. Mikhail, if you heard about what Barnab has been working on, like the rainbow staking and making this delegation, it's elaborating this research space. So this is Dan's overview. We can move further. Katya, do you have a question?
Yeah. Hi, Mikhail. Thank you for joining us today. Just to make it clear, so you do both research and core development, or you more involved in the research for now?
No, more the R&D. We definitely do some engineering stuff, like working on prototypes, and writing tests for the spec and other things, like that. But more on the research side of things. Then I'm not involved in the mainnet client development.
Yeah. So my question is, what do you think of Spectra split? Do you agree or disagree? And what EIPs do you think should be delivered first? That would be interesting to know.
That's a tricky question. And more like on the side of the coordination things. But I actually agree with the split and in favor of the split, because I think that it's been already quite a while we're working on the fork on the Pactra, and actually if we were not making a split, the upgrade will be delayed, which is there are, to my understanding, there are some uncertainties, and we just want to deliver what is already kind of ready to be delivered. There is still some unknowns when we finish the devnets and all the things, but at least the scope for those features that are included in the first Pactra subfork are kind of like settled down in terms of the design. So it just makes sense. I think it's natural to deliver them first and do the work in parallel on the one that that are pushed to the second part.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. By the way, Potus from Prism had a good article on this vector split. His opinion, I'm not sure if you saw that. Like, it's uh, just if you want to hear his thoughts, or like generally, like it's an interesting overview on how this stuff is coordinated and maybe how to prevent this in the future. Um, yeah, so I agree with Mikhail. Like it's, I think it's overall good it happened, like from the world perspective, but it shouldn't have happened in the first place. Like we could have avoided it by, I don't know, coordinating better maybe. We have a question from Rahul. Do you want to read out loud, or should I read it?
Good, Mario.
If you, yeah, okay. Um, Yeah, so it's a question about using the engine API over IPC instead of RPC. Whether engine API over RPC is possible, because it's like the idea of engine API is you have it on the same machine, authenticated, so it would make sense to use IPC. And I think Get and Prism even allow that. But like, yeah, what do you think about this? Like, whether you know some more details on the performance or maybe implementation complexity or so?
Yeah, I don't know. We did not do the comparison of the performance of these two things. But the general idea was just to leverage on the interface that the execution layer clients already have. When we were introducing the engine API, just extend this interface, and sometimes potentially, yeah, probably those calls can be really. But I'm just trying to understand whether there can be any huge communication overhead with respect to the to the operations that are being called on the EL by CL. So I don't know, really. We did not measure the performance, and yeah, if there is the appetite to do this, it would be just great, to see. But the main idea was just to leverage on the JSON RPC API, and make this interface that can be run on across different machines, and yeah, that was it. And there is also an idea that we should not use JSON because the size of the amount of data that is being transferred between CL and DL clients is growing, and probably we should switch to some binary encoding to reduce the size. This is the other, this is the other direction to explore this. To explore the potential engine API improvement. But here, the core principle behind the engine API is that it provides the communication interface between CL and EL. For instance, it kind of like encapsulates the complexity between different encodings that both layers use. You probably know that EL uses RLP encoding, CL uses SSZ encoding, and but they talk to each other via engine API and understand JSON. So this complexity is quite important to get rid of, unless we have EL switch to SSZ, and there are proposals on that front. But that's kind of like quite hard to do because of the legacy. So yeah, I think that this measurement and thinking about reducing the size of the payloads by leveraging on the binary encoding, yeah, it's a good things to explore.
Yeah, thank you, Mikhail. I mean that's another important thought here, that like the JSON format in itself is not very effective here, and I see it totally makes sense that like the engine API runs over RPC when that was when the clients already have the interface, they can just create another use the same code path. So pretty easy to implement. Folks, do you have any more questions? Feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, I wanted to come back to what we discussed before and just look forward to the future a bit. You mentioned some things that you are looking forward to already. Can you maybe elaborate on that? What things are you most excited about? What do you maybe hope for working on in the future, or maybe other hand, what you're scared of? What is your vision? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So as I mentioned, I'm looking forward to the further consensus protocol improvements. One of them is coming under the name of SSF, which is single slot finality, and there is the great work by EF and EF researchers and consensus R&D researchers, which is actually the 3SF protocol. There is a paper of this protocol, which is 3-slot finality, and it's quite rigorous. It's quite very well designed, and it's kind of like ready to. There is already a spec that people started to work on for this new protocol. So the basic idea is to reduce the time to finality, which is very important for many consumers of Ethereum protocol, for rollups and for regular users. That would be what excites me is like being a part of this effort. So I'm looking forward to to start being involved into it. It's going to be a quite long journey. It's not like the next year. We can ship this maybe 2 or 3 years, to my understanding, and requires a decent amount of spec work, design work, and coordination as well. There is one underlying problem. There is one problem underlying this, this new modern consensus protocol, and there are different approaches to solve this. The problem is basically, if we want fast finality, we will have to process and aggregate much more signatures, much more attestation signatures than we actually do now. And there are different approaches to this problem, like employing a ZK circuit, like doing something on the network, some more optimal attestation aggregation on the network, or basically sampling a subset of validators, which will be assigned for a certain slot. So there are different approaches to this problem as well. So yeah, and it will be great to explore and to find a solution actually, and yeah, to deliver this thing, this massive thing. The other like more midterm stuff is one of the things I would like to take a look into is the confirmation rule. We all know that we have to wait for finality to ensure that the block is not going to be reorged from the chain that is finalized. But we can do much better than that, and actually wait for a slot or two, and under certain conditions where the network is fine and the network synchrony is not broken. So we just assume that it's not broken. You can actually confirm blocks faster. There is the work again by EF and consensus researchers that yeah, there is a paper and there is the algorithm for this confirmation rule, and it requires outlining it into the spec. And actually there is already a spec, a PR to the spec with this change, but it needs to be finished and to be caught up with the most recent changes from the design part. So that's kind of things that I'm looking into, and yeah, those are big. And also I will keep the help and supporting the spec development in the meantime.
Yeah, thank you, Mikhail. Dan? You had a question?
I'll leave Boston, and then if there's time, I'll have my question.
Okay, that's fair. Weston, go ahead first.
Hey, thank you. Okay, so my question is that, well, you've been in the space for a long time now, like since the beginning, and you probably have knowledge of like most of what's happening right now. But like for us who are starting now or like just a couple of months, uh, there are a lot of areas in research and in development that are ongoing in parallel, and like understanding all of them and keeping up with them, it's like almost impossible. But like it always feels like you're missing the some topic, you're missing the hot thing that's happening. So my question is basically like, how much do you think it's necessary to keep up with all the things, all the research, all the new stuff that's happening, or like how do you handle this situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, yeah, since the beginning, if we go back to the beginning, that was much easier because there were less kind of like things to get familiar with to start any core development. And yeah, but now there are a lot of tracks of research which is really awesome. And obviously no one can be expert in everything at the same time. So I don't think it makes sense, and I don't think it's really possible if you're trying to chase every track of the research in the Ethereum space now. So you can be kind of like successful in any of those, right? So you have to focus on something to reach some success, to reach some results. And so my kind of like approach to this is to attempt at least to follow what's like most important direction and in your space. For instance, I'm working on the consensus layer side. I really don't know what is happening on the execution layer side. I mean, like in terms of updates, in terms of like new proposals, I don't follow them. I just understand in general how the EL work, um, how the EL side works, how the clients work, and sometimes when I need like some more deep understanding, I just reach out to one of the client devs that I can reach out at the moment in time. So this would be the best approach you can do. So say I'm focused on the CL side, so I can reach out to EL guys just to double check whether I'm not mistaken, or just to ask how does this thing work. Yeah, because I have some idea that might be easy to do or might be hard to do because of something that is of some specifics of the EL design. So this is the kind of like the general approach, but it is good to on the yeah, and in your area you just want to follow different proposals and understand what is happening there, because sometimes it is important that you're working on feature A and you want to understand what impact it has on feature B, because definitely obviously if you're working on some feature on the CL side, it can impact the other one, so you don't want to break anything, right? So you just either reading the spec, either reading the ETH research, or talking to people would be would be the way to go here. So just focus on something that really excites you. So what excites me is the consensus protocols, really, and reading papers, reading like some side things, and being involved into the protocol development, and following other crypto economic stuff. For instance, I'm not an expert in crypto economics. I'm just reading the papers and asking EF researchers who work on it asking some questions. Sometimes don't think that you're asking anything stupid. So it's everyone, especially regarding their research and the area they're experts in. Everyone is appreciating any questions, and everyone is happy to talk on the stuff that they work on. So don't hesitate to ask questions. That's the way to go in the decentralized development space.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mikhail. Yeah, I feel it's a really great, really good question, really good answer. Like in also like the way that Ethereum works, that it's modular and encapsulates complexity. Like that's what happens when people are experts in one area, and it's the same like Agent API, like just talking to different parts of the client, like the same like when you need to communicate your work. Anyway, Glory has a question.
Yeah, so thank you very much. My question is a little bit close to Bastin's question, but then I'm curious to know how you navigated or how you actually like started contributing to spec, because you mentioned you started in 2015, and as at that time you had you were not really into crypto, so and I'm sure that Ethereum was still very early at that time. So how was the thinking process like? How did you manage to like start coming up with spec, and how do you know this is the direction or this is what the spec should be like? And since a lot of things were still pretty much bare bones at that time, what was it like starting something from scratch, or probably I don't know if there were already something around that spec, but then I think for most of us beginners, it's pretty much difficult to think about the process of maybe even starting a spec or even contributing to an existing spec. I believe it comes with some level of understanding of the protocol, or to even know what is missing or what should be added and things like that.
So I'm sorry, the audio was a bit unstable, and yeah, just is the question about like how to start to contributing this back in terms of understanding of what to work on, what is the kind of like relevant things that you can contribute with to the spec?
Yeah, yes. So it's still pretty much in that direction. So I was just thinking, like, for somebody like you, when you mentioned you started in 2015, and as at that time you were not into crypto. So I was wondering how you were able to like find your way or navigate your way towards contributing to spec and creating EIPs and things like that.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. I can describe my way and just probably give some understanding if I were joining now what I would probably do. So my way was just basically I've been working on the it happened that I've been working on the EL side in the past. I've been working on the CL side as well. So and I was just stumbled upon the idea of the merge and turning the Ethereum to proof of stake, and it just excited me, and um, given the experience that I have working on both sides, I was like thinking that okay, so I probably can do something, can contribute by can contribute some work to making the connecting between these two things. And yeah, this is where I started from. I actually tried to to think about this problem, and tried this and that and started prototyping. So this is how it started. Basically the idea that was in the space, the idea was really kind of like the problem was not completely solved. We had some ideas. I started to explore from the ideas that already were in the space, and then we started to do some engineering around prototyping the merge and all these things, and then figuring out bit by bit how the end design will look like. So that was there was the work on the merge. I think that which is a good showcase on how to get involved into the spec development and the protocol development. From what I can say from now is that you actually first of all need to be familiar with the existing protocol, and actually most of the problems, most of the hot topics and most of the hot problems are published on ETH Research usually, or just following the some other venues like I don't know. Sometimes people just post sharing HackMD with some design solutions, and yeah, I would just follow. I would probably follow his research and see the most important, like see the most recent post and trying to understand what the problem they solve, and trying to and finding something that really excites me and that I want to look into, whether I'm an expert in or just the thing that excites me the most, and I want to dive deeper into it. And yeah, that probably would be the good starting point in the space and in the protocol development. Or the other approach would be to start from the engineering, from implementing some proposal, and then slowly moving towards the spec or the protocol design. That also the viable path. I think it's great path.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. We still have enough time. Question from Boma.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. So my question is more like your view on I just wanted to know your view on this. So it's more like considering your work on the merge engine API, like how do you see the future development in validator incentives and the standardization balancing, like in terms of security needs of Ethereum consensus layer?
So is the question about the validator economics and the security of the consensus layer? They're related to each other.
Okay. So the question is, like, how do you see the future? How do you see future development in validator incentives in terms of balancing security needs of Ethereum consensus layer, especially like in light of scalability challenges or other layer 2 solutions? I don't know if it makes sense better.
Yeah, I see. Okay. I can try. I just can try to answer this question. This is just my basic vision to that, because I'm not much involved into the crypto economics part, where actually the economic security is resides in. So I think that one of the major steps towards the more flexible approach to managing validator balances is this max effective balance increase stuff. And the next step, I think there are some proposals on it research, which are called rainbow staking, and which were mentioned here. Also, there is the Orbit SSF proposal. I can just pass the link into the chat. I mean, like, this is something that, yeah, this Orbit SSF is actually, yeah, Orbit. It's I don't know if it's yeah. This is about this actually allows to reduce the effective balances and have like 1 ETH staked, and yeah, which enables solo stakers like really with small amounts of ETH to become stakers and Ethereum and stake on Ethereum protocol. So I think that moving towards the solo stakers friendliness is the one of the things that the Ethereum should do, and also the other the other part of it was to there are some proposals to change the issuance curve to make it also solid staker friendly, which I really appreciate this efforts on making this Ethereum more solid staking friendly. And yeah, though I have said that I'm not that much into the crypto economics part, so can't speak much on it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mikhail. And we have last 4 minutes, so Danny, you need to promise me it's going to be short this time.
Very short, and it's in the same topic. Do you expect with MaxiB to have a good, reduction of the validator set, as in numbers, not in as in validator numbers, not in validator weight? And because I read in Orbit that there are some ideas around incentivizing consolidation. And since you worked on MaxiB EIP, do you expect to have a good consolidation after MaxiB?
Yeah, we expect from the conversations with the staking pools, some staking pools, we expect to see some good consolidation levels, but nobody knows for sure. So we'll see.
Yeah, of course.
And I would say that, higher consolidation, higher consolidation rates would mean that the stress on the network is going to be reduced, which is great. And also it kind of like makes it easier to do this single slot finality stuff by alleviating the size of the problem with the network aggregation, with the attestation aggregation in the network.
Do you know of some actual measurements to incentivize consolidation or punish not consolidation? And not punish, it's a bad word. I think that's not going to be implemented, is it? It's going to be left with the stakers to either consolidate or not.
Yeah. But I believe that it makes sense up to a certain extent, it makes sense to consolidate a stake if you're a huge pool, big pool. There were some concerns about the increased slashing risks, like increased penalties from slashing if the consolidation rate is high. But it's been kind of like shown by small by the analysis that the consolidation rates at 128 or 256 ETH is kind of like not that much increasing the size of those penalties. That was related to the slashing due to some in infrastructural problems, like when you deploy the keys on two different machines, this kind of stuff. Yeah, so I think that makes sense for operators to consolidate. It's just easy, and considering that the stress on the network will decrease, which is very important for the liveness of the mainnet. I think this is very good incentive. Also, they have some features like compounding compounding credentials, which will mean that they will not have to re-enter the balance into the stake. So they will just accrue it to the same balance and start working, start securing instantly, securing the mainnet.
And that will work with all three credentials and sending a message on the beacon chain, or how it will work actually, how will it be
So if you consolidate, you have to send a message that will run in protocol consolidation, and the target of the consolidation will switch to compounding credentials. There is also a separate message that we should do compounding credentials. So you can do it, opt into compounding, and opt into in protocol consolidation rather than like re-entering the validity set.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mikhail. I'm sure there is a ton more questions. I have some myself, but we have to cut it off here because we're already full hour. and there are more meetings to attend. So yeah, thank you so much, Mikhail, for the AMA. Yeah, I appreciate all your answers, all the time you dedicated. And yeah, we already discussed, like, folks, if you have more questions, I believe you can reach out to Mikhail in Discord. We can open a thread in the fellowship channel. Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much. It was great.